Hello, what's up, everybody? Welcome back to Brainwash Book Series. Today's guest is a very special person. We have we had a conversation already before we just jump into this episode. He started his business basically, or we will dive into those topics probably in this episode too. But what I know about him, he started helping chiropractors. First off, he did it by himself, then he started helping chiropractors, and then when everything started shifting and so on, he jumped into AI, and now he's helping doctors and so on automate things like when it comes to AI and such. So really pumped to have him here. He's also a traveler. I love going for some trip to mountains and so on, so I'm really pumped because we have a pretty few things in common also, so this is awesome and super pumped to have him here. Welcome to the show at Osburn. What's up, brother?
Hey, what's up? Thank you.
Awesome. All right, so I'm pumped to have you. It's gonna be so much fun. We had a pretty cool conversation about AI and so on, and how the AI is changing the world and so on. It's like it's really interesting to see what is possible. And but before we jump into those topics and talking about AI and even like what we see or what you may see or what is happening with the future of civilization basically, and how the world may change with how AI affects us. Also, like, how we gonna even what we gonna be like, because like everything what we do upon this time, we are basically operating based on some type of system that works here for pretty much, I would say, a couple of 100 years probably. And now, like, when AI starts shifting those things and so on, so I I'm really interested in hearing from you what's your thoughts on that, and like how this whole thing's gonna go together. But yeah, let's start with, before we jump into there, let's start with like your background. Just give us a little bit of what how did you get into business and so on, and then we can jump into more specific topics and have some fun.
Sure. So let's see if we'll go back a ways. So I started school, or I started education pretty late. Like, I didn't start my undergrad until I was 27, which seems late to me. Yeah, I finished my undergrad down in the States. I'm from Canada, so from Calgary, Alberta, Canada right now. That's where I'm based out of, in the mountains. But I did my schooling in the States in the San Francisco Bay Area. Finished that, did an undergrad, did my postgraduate as a chiropractor, and I actually practiced up here in Alberta, Canada for 14 years. Had a massive family pediatric-based family chiropractic practice here for 14 years. Probably one of the busiest practices in Alberta, and it was really awesome to have. It was amazing to build, but it was very stressful at the same time. So over time, eventually, I developed a chronic autoimmune condition, which meant that I couldn't work. I had to have emergency surgery, and all of these horrible things happened, and complications, etc. And I was like sidelined, and I'm literally in the freezing cold of Alberta, Canada, and I'm in my basement for 3 months going, what do I do? Like a high performing business person, doctor, and now I can't even lift my child. And I just decided, I started listening to podcasts. I was listening to John Lee Dumas, Entrepreneur on Fire. I don't know if if you're familiar with that. It's a great podcast. I think it's still going. And I'm like listening and I'm going, you know what? I think I could do this. I think I could do this. And so I created a podcast, learned self-taught. And it was a lot harder by the way to record back then and to get guests and things like that. So I created a podcast, and within the first 3 months, it became the #1 podcast for chiropractors in the world. So yeah, I was interviewing.
What a success. Holy smokes.
Yeah,
That's
I was
awesome.
interviewing people like Grant Cardone,
Wow.
John Lee Dumas was on my show, Jack Canfield, so the author of Chicken Soup for the Soul. So I had a lot of different best-selling authors at the time, and I was interviewing and did about 500 episodes and decided, okay, I'm done with this. But that was my entry into the online business world. And that was the big shift. I started feeling like, okay, I'm making bigger impact here in this virtual world than I am in my practice. And plus also, with my health and the restrictions, my autoimmune challenges put on me physically, but also emotionally, it was just a better fit for me. And so I launched my first online program. We sold a ton of it in 3 days, like $60,000 in 3 days. And from there, I just started showing doctors how to launch their own program. So that's kind of where the transition that was 10 years ago, by the way, to place that.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I'm still here. I'm still in this chair doing it.
Bro, you did amazing things. Wow. Like, just having the courage to actually, start something like podcasting and so on. This is like already a next level, because like most of the people, they're just hesitating or having some, insecurities that stops them from actually doing something like that. I know that because I've been in that situation too. How many years I've been just like delaying and delaying and delaying it. And then like I felt completely like, what would I have to do? Like I don't want to be like other people around me, just struggling every day, because like I coming from poor background. And that shift for me, like everything, and I just jump into, and like literally it's so funny because like a year ago that happened, like that breakout moment for me, like
Wow.
wake up, and yeah, so many things that happening just because I took the action. The thing is that do you know like Alex Hormozy, because you said like Alex Hormozy is like talking about that you've been with him in Russell Brunson Inner Circle, which is amazing. Also, like this is powerful stuff there. And when he talks about like find something that somebody's doing and it's working, and do it just twice the amount, because you're gonna shorten the learning curve, and you're gonna master it way faster, and you can get the results as they do, or even better, right? So this is like what I literally did with my podcast too. Like I have you can see out there literally people who running podcasts for years, and they have a couple of episodes, and I did in 6 months I did over 100 episodes, just because and I've been doing it all myself, like literally doubling down on messaging and being able to do every day freaking grinding. But I love it. That's the thing. I love to talk to people like you, amazing people who did so much good stuff, and for sure they're gonna do even more. You know what I mean? So this is really powerful, and thank you for sharing that. So to continue to that, so tell me what happened when that you had some physical issues or so. What happened actually?
Well, I was diagnosed. So for some context as well, like yes, very busy practice, very successful. I was an ultramarathon runner, so
Wow.
by all
Bro,
appearances,
you're living like a professional,
like a
athlete
David
or so.
Goggins,
Wow,
man.
that's crazy. Wow,
Yeah.
that's awesome.
And I just, I would go for a run, like a training run. And my training runs were like a marathon, because I was training for 100-mile races. And I would come home and I couldn't get out of bed for like 2 days. And yeah, I had to crawl to the bathroom. I'm not kidding. And so, go to the medical doctor, and being a chiropractor, especially at that time, I was, okay, I can fix this. I know what's going on. I can fix this. And it got to the point where I couldn't. I'm just like, I go to a medical doctor. We're just going through the list of, okay, it's not your kidneys, it's not your heart, it's not this. And they just found, eventually 6 months in, they just found that I had Crohn's disease, if anyone's familiar with that. And it was bad. So I didn't have the typical symptoms. I was older, it's a young man's disease. And eventually I had to have emergency surgery almost very quickly after that. Things got really accelerated, and it got worse. And so once that happened, and then, you have some of your intestines removed, it makes life incredibly difficult. So you want to be sitting in a chair doing most of your work, put it that way, and being able to control your life, control your stress. And it was a big lifestyle shift for me. And I want to preface this too, is that, because the title is Brainwashed to be Broke, is over that 3 months, and because I was sick coming into that period too, and I wasn't as busy in practice going into that because I was ill. I mean, I was so close to losing everything. I was selling my stuff on Kijiji, or whatever they call it, wherever you're from. Like, we have Kijiji here in Canada. That's like eBay, right? Yeah, I remember selling one of my guitars and being like, oh, okay, I can pay the power bill. Like, I was broke, man. Wow. And so it was that survival and necessity, I think, that really drove me to create the podcast, to do something, and to create inertia, like a momentum. And I think that's the challenge. You talk about, hey man, it's been a year. I've done 100, and I want to acknowledge you, by the way. I know what it takes to do 100 podcast interviews. It's not easy. That's 100 hours or more, right?
Yeah, it's not easy.
It's a lot, not including production. Yeah. So,
and for me, it's also a challenge, like speaking. So
yeah,
because my English is not my first language, right? So like I literally learn English just speaking with strangers.
Wow.
And like doing this whole thing. So it's, for me, it's like, when we're connecting and when we talk, it's like I'm getting better in communications, and like, knowing people like way better also, like how they react on certain, and what they use, what words they use. So it's like, it's all the time like a learning process for me. So I'm super pumped to, talking to anybody pretty much. Yeah.
And it's like Alex Hormozy says, right? He talks about, I think it's Alex said this, was delayed gratification.
Oh yeah, 100%.
So most people quit because they get 10 episodes in and they go, this isn't doing anything. Nobody's listening, and I'm not impacting anyone's life. And as a chiropractor, the developer of chiropractic has a saying. He actually wrote these green books, and one of the sayings is, you never know how far-reaching something you say, think, or do can change the lives of those tomorrow. And when it comes to podcasting, when it comes to video like YouTube, I feel that is the underpinning, that is the foundation. You do it because of that one sentence, that one idea, because it's going to be that one or two people who hear that message that day that you're impacting. Hopefully we all go viral, but the reality is it's a lot of work.
Yeah, totally. They always, when people, I think Alex was talking about it, that, people see always only the vitality, but that's literally like this piece.
Yeah.
The work before is like that big, and so it's so funny because they always like, oh my gosh, you've gone viral, but look at this, and they try to model you, but they don't know the learning curve and all of that. So it's like, and that's pretty much with everything. It's business, it's life, it's literally like anything, like even like you going to snowboarding in the mountains, like or skiing, it's the same thing. You cannot start with being the skilled, the most like the best skilled person.
So
so
took years.
it is like what it is. Yeah,
since I was like 13 or 12 years old I've been skiing. So yeah, it's a skill. And like you said, it's putting in the reps. Like the reason Alex says just do more and keep doing it, consistency is true, by the way, but that is going to shift in the next few years. And yet consistency is important, volume is important, but it's also about the quality. Like what is your message and what are you actually putting out there? So busy isn't always going to equate to a business. And activity doesn't always equate to authority. And I try to teach that to professionals, especially to doctors, is that, look, if you don't have time, like you or I, to go and create 100 episodes, just make 10 that are really like impactful. Like imagine how much content you can pull from 10 hours of podcast interviews or YouTube videos. I mean, that's almost probably enough to fill it, 3 months if you chop it down and, transcribe it. I mean, AI, it's a lot of content, even for those of us who don't have a lot of time, but the quality of the content is going to start mattering more in the future.
100%, especially like the human interaction, like when it comes to AI and so on, like human interaction is going to be really, really big. Like the brands who are built on humans going to have, I think, still the biggest wins, I think, in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, I think, connection. So this is a tough one, especially when it comes to chiropractors, right? Because, and let's open it up to maybe people who are not just chiropractors. Let's talk about professionals who, it's seemingly they can't be replaced by AI or humanoid AI. So, the location and correction of misalignment, subluxation.
Can you give any examples, like for what type of industries, for example?
Well, there's certain things like, so I think, so dentistry, for example, there may be a point in time where, a humanoid robotic AI would be able to replace that dentist. Yep. There's x-rays, like right now we can take x-rays and I can have a doctor who has a lot of experience review the x-ray and give me a report, but I can go to Grok and have a report in 2 minutes and it's probably the same. So AI does a really great job, and it's not even trained to read x-rays or MRIs or CT scans.
Yep.
So, and that's just right now with the general AI. It's not even the specific stuff. So I think a lot of these people who are radiologists, who, a lot of these different technologies are going to be replaced. At some point we'll probably have mobile x-ray. People just show up and do all the tests for you in a CT scan. They just show up at your house and they scan you. You get in the machine, right? It's all going to be, healthcare is going to change. It's going to transform. It is in a critical spot right now where a lot of people are not getting what they need. So it is going to be changing very quickly with the advent of this technology. So I think that's one example. But I think when you look at people who are like chiropractors, for example, who also rely a lot on experience. So I remember being in chiropractic college and palpating someone's spine for the very first time, like another student, and going, what is this? It was very foreign. Whereas once I was like 7 or 8 years in practice and I had adjusted or palpated or, seen as many x-rays as I had, it was second nature. So I don't know if AI will ever be able to replace that. I think like in a mechanical sense, it probably will. But I also feel like you're saying the connection piece will be missing, the person-to-person piece. And I don't know what jobs that would be, what professions or positions. I guess we could probably go to AI and ask, ask them, what would it be?
I think most of the people doing it anyway these days. The only thing what it's coming to my mind is that, I still, in my opinion, I would still go to a business owner to ask for advice than to AI when it comes to it comes to, for example, helping me grow a business, because I want to have somebody who actually did it. He knows the things that you dealing with to actually get into that place, right? So I think there's still going to be it's not going to be completely replaced, in my opinion. But when it comes to different type of services, and especially local businesses, and brick and mortar, or even some tasks basically in online business is gonna be completely automated. It's pretty much even now it's already happening,
Yeah,
right?
already.
But if you think about it, like the reason why most people do not take the information that AI provides seriously is just because it's not coming from authority.
Yeah.
What do you think
I,
about that?
I think that has shifted. If I look back even, so I've been using, so kind of again, more context. When we were working with professionals, health professionals, and building their online businesses for them, we started with using an AI technology called Jasper.ai. And Jasper was ahead of the curve. I mean, we're talking, this would have been 4 years ago, and no one was talking about AI. It wasn't open source, right? And my clients thought I was a wizard, right? They'd be like, hey, can you give me a webinar title and some blah, blah, blah? And I'd text message them or email them back 3 minutes later with it. And they'd be like, oh my God, this is amazing. Can you give me a script? Yeah, here you go. So back then, you know, it was kind of like an underground secret.
Yep.
Now everybody uses it. So I want to go like, you know, that was just like 3 or 4 years ago to where nobody really talked about it. Just a few of us. Nobody really utilized it and we were making money, essentially making money from it, to now everyone has it in their phone, man. Everyone has it in their back pocket. It's voice activated. It's like, you can have a conversation with ChatGPT. You can, you know, you don't even need to go and get your headshots anymore. You know, those will get updated. It's crazy.
Yeah.
A great example of this, I think, is, you know, I fired my financial advisor. Yeah, like a year ago, I fired him, and I'm just like, I went to ChatGPT and I got the most unbiased, dialed in, relevant, you know, advice on where I should put my money, where, you know, how I should what percentage goes where, how do I mitigate my taxes the best I can and save for retirement. And I had to think about it. I'm like, yeah, there's a little, of course I put it through filters to make sure it's accurate. But part of me is like, okay, I don't know if I trust it. But then if you look at the trust deficit with people in general, like, does my financial advisor have an incentive to push me towards different investments? And the answer would be yes. And I got to tell you, I've been making dividends on all those, all those stocks. Sorry about my notifications there. So it's been, I think that, you know, even for me, yes, there might be the general population, business owners, professionals, people listening to this podcast, they might be going, okay, you know, I'm still skeptical. But I think as things move forward, probably even in just the next 12 months, there will be more trust in AI and AI bots and you know, answer engine optimization versus even SEO. Like I don't go to, and most people don't do this, I would suggest too. Most people don't go to Google and ask for, you know, look for something. So they go to AI, so answer engine optimization. They go to AI, they ask a question, and then they go and they get an answer, and then they go, who do you think could help me? And then AI will provide them with 1 or 2 preferred recommendations. Go and see, this is the accountant you should talk to based on the conversation we had. And that's going to be the way it is, whether it doesn't matter what your product or service is, that's what's going to happen in the future. And a lot of people are quietly disqualifying themselves from being recommended by AI because they don't know that they're doing certain things, like they're putting out certain signals online that disqualify them from ever being recommended by AI. Wow. And I think that's going to be the big shift in the next couple of years, is people are no longer going to be using Google, although Google does have its AI search now. And instead they're going to be just pulling up whatever, you know, Grok or whatever they're using. And they're going to be asking, you know, who's the best at this? And
it seems like that. Yeah, the world is shifting this way for 100%, because like I don't know how huge drop of it had to be when they released AI and everybody, like most of the people start, you know, shifting from going to search on Google to going to search to ChatGPT or so on. I think in my prediction is a huge
Yeah.
Yeah, because like I'm not anymore on Google, like literally zero. Like maybe when I'm going to, some restaurants or something, like researching something that we can, yeah, maybe I still use Google just to see like what is the nearest restaurant or nearest whatever,
Yeah.
like barber shop or whatever, but not really about like more specific topics where I have to give more explanation. I'm just going straight to, because I can just talk to it normally, not
Yeah.
like specific phrases or something like keywords to actually get the results. No, I just explain what I mean, and it's giving me the best. And if even though it literally point me back into Google if necessary, for example, or so, which
Yeah.
is really interesting.
Yeah, I mean, because if you look at page one of Google, and it used to be what was the saying? They used to say, if you want to hide a dead body, put it on page 2 of Google. And now it's like it's gone from even page 1 of Google. If you look, probably the first 4 or 5 listings, links, URLs are paid advertisement. So there's a trust deficit. People don't trust ads. They don't so authority is not equated by advertising. So just because you're seen and visible doesn't mean that people trust you. And it's the same with then it was like, okay, well, I'm just going to have 1,000 reviews. Well, unfortunately, reviews, it's the same thing now, right? A lot of them are paid reviews. They're solicited. People don't really trust reviews. If you think about behavior too, most people, if I ever look at reviews, I look for the worst reviews. I want to see, I want to see how the business actually handled a bad review.
Yep.
So I don't think that either of those things are going to be as relevant, moving forward. Again, like you said, you go to AI. Hey, look, I need to get a new car. Who's got the best? Who in my area? This is my postal code. Has financing incentives, and is trustworthy. And AI will always pull the most trustworthy. Anything that, and there's certain, again, signals in people's advertising, people's websites that'll disqualify them immediately. And it's the fastest filter to get quality. Like AI will never recommend a business that is not trustworthy. It's not even capable. Yeah, it's really cool. So I think, again, moving forward, I think a lot of business owners, if they're listening to this, and there's a lot of, if you're looking for what's the next thing, being able to help businesses, optimize their AEO, so their answer engine optimization for their business. Just like people use, there's companies that help with search engine optimization. I think that'd be a really great opportunity for a lot of people who are listening right now, because you'd be way ahead of the curve.
Yeah. When it comes to AI and this, everything what is happening right now, what you can see that people are hesitant the most about, and how it affects them from actually using this situation in their advantage?
I mean, that's a really great question. I mean, I think it's like the adoption of new technology, right? It's the adoption of any new. Actually, let's not even say technology. Let's say idea. And I think for anyone, when something new is introduced to them, they always go through a phase of friction. And the friction is just this. It's like, this feels weird, feels uncomfortable. I just want to go back to the way. Can I just do the way it used to be? Best example for me, I felt this when I changed from PC to Apple products. When I bought an Apple, even though they're both laptops, I'm like, this is really weird. I got to click over here. How does this tracking pad work? Like, everything's just seemed foreign. However, once I went through that friction phase of usually about 30 days, or in this case, it was about 30 days, I don't think I could ever go back. So when I go to my son's PC, it's like, I can't figure out how to work this thing. And I think,
yeah, bro,
and
it's so common. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. And I think
it.
it's the same.
Yeah.
It's the same with AI, right? So there's people who just, the reason they're not trusting it, or the reason they don't use it, is they're in the friction phase. It's temporary.
Do you think we've been programmed this way?
I think we've been programmed I think we're in a phase of as a species, we're in a phase of skepticism. Like with the events of the last 4 or 5 years, and I'm not going to list them all. There's a lot of people just don't trust the media. They don't trust the news. They don't know what to trust. So it's very difficult for people to just accept. Before I remember I would just watch the news and I took everything verbatim. Oh, this must be true.
Yeah.
But we know that that's not always accurate. So I think, again, we come back to the trust deficit, and that's why a lot of people, it may take them a little longer, but I think soon we're going to see this real hockey stick. And, you and I talked about Elon Musk before we jumped on here, and I was listening to an interview he was giving, and he talked about, in the next 10 years, he's like saying, basically he said, if you're squirreling money, I'm going to try and quote him, but he said basically if you're squirreling money away for retirement right now, he's like, it's useless, because he goes, in the next 10 years to 15 years, we're going to enter into an AI, age of abundance. Everyone's going to have a car. Everyone will be provided for, including health. Like, there will be no need for retirement. Everyone will be taken care of. Money will become irrelevant. And yes, we'll have oligarchs and things like that still, but everyone...
Can you imagine how it could work? Like, can you imagine how that would be? Like, has to be some transaction or something that how you can change, exchange food for something. Like, do you think that there is like playing together something with even like the cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin? What is happening?
I don't know. Like, I mean, it's, again, that was one of my first thoughts, right? I'm like, oh man, I got a lot of money in Bitcoin. But also there was a comforting thought to it. For me, I thought, you know what? Everything's going to be okay. Because, well, it's going to go one way or the other, right? It's going to either be we're no longer around, we've been taken over by humanoid AI, and or we're all taken care of and everything's okay. And Elon, just to kind of summarize, he's basically more optimistic than most people, and he's kind of more leaning towards the everything's going to be okay phase. But I thought it was really interesting when he's, well, more than interesting. I thought it was really comforting that when he says, hey, everyone's going to be taken care of in the future. And I believe him when he says that. I mean, he's a pretty smart guy. So far he's been right about everything. And, yeah, I can't imagine what that would be like. It doesn't mean I'm going to stop. I'm going to pump the brakes and work less, but, it's definitely changed my mindset for how I might prepare in the next 10 or 15 years.
100%. Do you have a kid?
Yeah, I have 2 boys.
Okay. So because that's really interesting actually, like, how you prepare kids for this to come.
Great question. There's 2 things that I'm preparing my kids for when it comes to like being self, having sovereignty. So one is blue collar, because it'll be the last thing to be replaced. And even in the blue collar world, there will be the need for people who are engineers, right? Like, and when I say engineers, people who run the machines, right? They're still going to need someone to fix the machines until someone else can another machine can fix a machine. So I'm strongly encouraging my kids to select to be in welding, electrical, plumbing. Those are also
technologies. Yeah.
Yeah, those are the blue collar that will be an incredible opportunity. And the other is actually creative artistry, being an artist, designer. There is at least for now, there's no creative, because it's machine driven thought processes, like with AI, I feel like human creativity is going to explode, because we don't have all these other mundane things we need to really think about. So I think we'll be entering into a stage of, philosophy and art. Back in the old times, when people had more time to do those things, and some of the more creative like, the designs of buildings and things like that were incredible back then. But those are the two things that I'm encouraging my boys to really explore, because I think everything else is going to be replaced, to be honest.
Yeah.
It is, but it isn't, right?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Because like, have you thought about it? I don't know about you, but do you really like what you do?
I think I love what I do in terms of that I get to learn new things. There's two things, again, come back to two things. There's two things. Number one is I get to learn and expand. I think my philosophy on the meaning of life is expansion. So that means learning new things. That means, improving yourself. That means improving your kids. Like it's constant, never ending expansion because the opposite is contraction, which is death. So I feel like, I love what I do because I get to learn new stuff all the time. I'm always amazed by certain things that I learn every day, especially when it comes to, helping others with online business.
Now imagine that, like, most of the things that you pretty much like what you do and most people do going to be replaced. So what they gonna be, it's gonna be really interesting. Like, because I can't imagine to just stop doing what I'm doing because I just like it, even though it's uncomfortable. And who cares? Like, I'm just doing it because I like it. I like to be in uncomfortable situations. I just learned it to like it, kinda. But still, of course, it's not 100%. It's not all the time the same. You have bad days, good days, and so on. Like, it's still a process, right? But just imagining because like my belief is that, what is the purpose of your life? Like, when it comes to what is the purpose of your life, in my opinion, is doing something that you like to do every day, pretty much. Like, you like to do it. Of course, it's gonna be some stuff that you don't like to do or so, but most of the time you want to spend doing something that you like to do. But if you think about it and you do some sport or something, like, doing, like, most of the people would be like, okay, I'm like to play football all the time. I like to go on skiing, or I like to go. Over time, you're gonna start hating it. I'm telling you that. Like, if you do all the time the same thing, you're just gonna get too much of it. And that's like why business is so amazing, because you can do, like, it's not all the time the same thing. So you do this and then you do different thing. Like, it's so many skills that you have to learn, and you have different conversation with different people and so on. This is the amazing thing, And now, like, when you think that most of the things gonna be replaced, and then, like, AI is gonna be doing, like, or the robots basically gonna do, that's pretty scary. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, but it is, again, it's something that's, I think, is going to be almost like free. I feel like, as humans, right, we're going to have a lot more time to spend on those things that we enjoy, or, so activities, but also, like, I think the creative piece, right? Yeah. I haven't, like, I mean, I don't know. I even feel like, music was better 20 years ago than it is today. So there's those creative pieces. I think we'll spend a lot more time on that. And of course, there's going to be people who will probably be, working on the science of how do we get to Mars, right? And things like that too. It's a tough one, man. I mean, honestly,
expansion.
What I've kind of come to the conclusion is, you can't, like, even when I used to sit down and be, okay, I'm doing my 5-10 year plan. It's difficult. Like, you can still do your 5 or 10 year plan, but so much can change now, because we're in that singularity of like, things are going to start really shifting a lot faster now. It's really difficult to say, where am I going to be in 5 years? So now I'm kind of, and is it really worth it to work my ass off to put money away that's going to be irrelevant in 10 years? So now you say, hey, like, I see you're in the mountains. I love skiing. I love spending time in the tropics. It's because, those are the moments you'll never get back. I don't care how much AI there is. I don't care, virtual, whatever. It will boil down to your experiences, right? Yeah. It's like, what did you actually live your life?
Yeah. Well, what is your opinion on this type of what most like you can hear it probably from multiple angles, but people are talking always about like the balance between your work and between your personal life and so on. And it's really like, yeah, what is your opinion on that? Like balance between those two things, and then we can discuss
Bonds between
work and personal life.
and personal life. I think, so coming from a profession of chiropractors, my experience is a little different than maybe a lot of people. But as chiropractors, my experience is who we are and what we do as a chiropractor, like our profession, is very much a part of who we are. So that was the biggest challenge I had when I had to step away from being a chiropractor, because I lost my sense of identity. I didn't know who I was anymore. If I couldn't be in my practice serving other people, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I think it's really important that whatever you're doing for a living it should fill your soul. There should be some sort of something there that's really driving you internally as well. Don't get me wrong. When I was 25, I was a night manager at a car rental business at the airport. But I enjoyed it too. Like I really enjoyed serving people. They'd come in, they're on holiday. I'd get them their car.
That's awesome. Okay.
But it was a very different type of service. So I think if I could choose any word to kind of explain that, connection between what you do and how you make a living and who you are, it's service. And from my experience in, talking about AI and maybe where we no longer have that, need to go and make a living in the future, I think maybe people will start losing a certain sense of self-identity, is because it's like, hey, if I'm not doing this, then what am I doing?
Yeah. I remember that movie. What is it? The movie or it was like, is that the robot, the small robot that is like, when those people are literally driving on those chairs, like literally those levitating chairs, and they have the screen.
Oh, the cartoon, yeah.
The cartoon. Oh my gosh, I forgot about it. But I'm just scared of that. Like literally, holy smokes, that can that can be danger. Literally.
It's probably not far off, man. Yeah,
that's insane. Wow.
Yeah, a lot of movies are prediction.
Yeah. Well, like it's sometimes it's really interesting, like how people can come up with something like that. It's just imagination. But like, tell me, like where those thoughts are coming from. Like, it's really interesting. Do you believe in God? Actually, are you believing?
Yeah. Okay. I believe in something like a higher power. I believe there.
Right.
Yeah, I just feel like there's too many. So it's tough to build to put together. And by the way, before I was ever a chiropractor, I was in my undergrad. I was going to be a paleontologist. That was my dream. So evolution, paleontology, Darwinism, my thing. There's just way too many things that are
paleontology. That's just back to that paleontology. That's the study of like the history or something like that.
Yeah,
like
dinosaurs, bones, fossils.
Oh man,
yeah.
Holy shit, that's insane. Because like, bro, when I was kid, I was like completely down into it. Dinosaurs. Like, holy smokes, I had like documentaries that I've been watching all the time. Crazy. Yeah, that was insane. That's really interesting.
Yeah, that was my thing, and
I wanted to be the same exactly like that. Holy smokes, I completely forget about it. I think we have still those cassettes or whatever it was. Like it was on that like the type of technology that was that time.
Yeah,
like, it was the cassettes. So you put it into that. It was like a big box. You probably know what I'm talking about, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was a big fossil geek. I mean, that's part of the reason why I moved back to Alberta. We have lots of fossils here.
Nice.
But it's it's not a far stretch to go to bones of humans from paleontology. But
that's interesting.
Yeah, I think there's just too many things that line up, that have to line up, right, for us to have appeared and especially in the time frame that we've been here. There's just way too many things, too many questions, coincidence. So I feel like there's something, we'll call it God, but there's some higher power, something put us here. And I mean, have you heard Elon? I think I heard him say, someone asked him on a podcast, they said, what do you think the percentage of, what do you think is the percentage of possibility that we are in a simulation right now? That like the Matrix.
Yeah. Oh
And
my gosh.
he's like 90%.
Yeah. Well, we don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's insane.
Something's up there controlling it.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, just imagining this. Oh my gosh, that's insane. Dude, yeah. Well, so okay, so let's back out a little bit. I don't know if we have still some time. Yeah, we're good. So what was your first step when it comes to like building a business, and like what was your beliefs about you that you had to like overcome or something? So just little bit back up into the the context of the show, so people can get some value also from that side of you. So yeah, so tell me a little bit about like, did you have some, like beliefs that you had to overcome that was handed by generations or your parents, people around you, or so on? Like, what was it for you when you started the business?
So like if it was my chiropractic profession, like that business, I mean, it was the insecurity was, can I actually help people? Right. Mm-hmm. Is this going to work? Essentially. And because there's a lot of nuance to the profession and to helping people, especially with their health. So yeah, there was insecurity around that, but that's why they call it practice, because the more you do it, the better you get at it. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't a far leap to go to online business. It was very uncomfortable. I had no experience in broadcasting when I started a podcast. Like, I didn't know anything. All I just felt was like, I think I can do this. Mm-hmm. I produced all my own podcasts myself. I remember in the first 10 episodes, I was interviewing like really influential doctors. Mm-hmm. And I remember, like, I was a younger doctor. I was probably like 40. So to me, that's younger. And I remember just apologizing to them, going, "Oh my God, I'm so sorry. This is so bad." And they're like, no, it's okay.
It's the same process. Don't worry, I did the same thing. Anyway, those like first few episodes, nobody gonna hear anyway. So it's like, I'm sorry for I fucked up. Everything's wrong.
So I think, everyone goes through that, right? Yeah. I mean, it's so. I guess going back to the epicenter of your question is, what was it? For me, it's always been speed of implementation. I just get an idea and I go. Mm-hmm. And I've had coaches in the past and they think it's hilarious because like I'll be on coaching calls and they'll go, "What do you think is more important, speed or direction?" And everyone is like, direction. And I'll be like, speed. And they're like, speed. Well, I hope nobody said speed.
I would say 100% like speed. Direction doesn't matter. The direction can be adjusted along the way, like you just have to get into it. Like
go and course correct. Yeah,
exactly.
So the part of the challenge with people with direction is it's really what they're saying is clarity. Mm-hmm. If they're waiting for clarity, they'll never execute. They're never going to go, or it'll just be delayed. And by the way, the longer it takes for you to get launched, the higher the odds are that someone else is going to execute, where you're just sitting there ambiguous to, okay, should I do this or not? This wandering, vague generality. So I think execute. You get an idea, you execute on it. And I'll tell you from experience, dude, I have launched so many programs, products, and services. And some of them are duds. Like, it's like, oh, well, that didn't work. I spent a lot of money and time on that. But then I'll go, okay, well, what's next? What can I do next? Like, example, again, I launched a program last week and it smashed. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, well, that's interesting. I never would have thought that, but hey, it's working. So I feel like this is an opportunity. My audience has spoken. So now I course correct. I go, okay, now I can laser focus on what is this audience. Now that this program, this product, this business is validated, how can I dial in on this and then Hormozy scale it? So, I think most people spend too much time on one thing that may or may not work, trying to get clarity, trying to get direction. Where do I go from point A to point Z?
Before they even take an action, right?
Yeah. And the next thing you know, they just go, well, maybe I'll just never do it. So I think speed is the most important factor.
100%. Yeah, 100%. But what we can see, most people, what they, they hesitate of, well, the hesitation is coming from either uncertainty or they don't have clarity of what is the first step. Even though, like, people don't know what to do. Like, they have a vision. For example, let's say that they want to start a business in whatever, like, AI industry, let's say, like helping people automate things or whatever, like build some system in a backend for them for fulfillment or whatever. It doesn't really matter. They don't know what to do, or they are not clear enough to be able and do the first step. Like, that was my biggest struggle at the beginning. Like, I was like, I'm learning funnels and I've been doing that and that even before AI and so on, like literally 7 years ago. And I didn't know what I should be doing. I was like, okay, I'm going to be building funnels. So I built my funnel and I put it out there and nobody came there. And I was like, oh, sucks. So what now? It doesn't work. So I should probably I'm going to try and run ads. So I'm going to put ads into place and like I have to learn how to do ads. And but I think like even though starting with the funnel, at least with one thing, it's still better because then you have feedback and the feedback tells you, okay, it doesn't work. The only thing is then you have to be really conscious about what the business actually affecting. So yeah, there are like multiple things that you have to figure out like when you're starting a business. So I still think like investing into coach is a really, really good start, or at least some type of program that gives you some overview of how business works or so on, or even like what are your thoughts on that?
I think if I was if I was going back, and it's I'm let's say let's say if I had to do it again, but I had all the knowledge, all the access to tools, the resources, the experience that I have today.
So different right now. Like
first thing I would do is I would find something I want to do. So what is interesting? What do I like? Usually that means I look at, okay, what am I consuming? So I want to produce what I consume. I don't know if that's a good analogy.
That's so good,
if you listen, so the reason I created a podcast was because I was listening to podcasts. The reason, like if you watch a lot of YouTube videos, launch a YouTube channel. You read a lot of books, write a book. Like if you spend a lot of time boxing, launch a boxing gym or something like, so it's like producing in something that you consume, something you like to do. And then I think the next thing is I would just find someone who's doing it hyper successfully. And I would go to AI and I would say, look, I need you to do some research for me. So this is start a folder, right? A project with multiple different conversations. And start doing research. Grab every URL, every video for YouTube that this person has done. Start training AI, so let's say ChatGPT, on who this person is and for what purpose you're doing this. Then from there, you'd be like, okay, I want to create something that's very similar, but this is how I want to do it. I want to do it differently. This is my unique selling proposition, like the difference between me and them, and just have ChatGPT start giving you lists of things to do. So I always start with the basic outline. So a lot of people get way too much information, or it's vague, or it's generic from let's say ChatGPT. I was like, okay, like if I was to do this, can you provide a one-sheet business plan, and it will give you the most accurate business plan you possibly, and then talk about fees. Is this, ask piercing questions about, is this profitable? Like, what would I need to do? How much content do I need to produce to get this result? Or again, I think those pieces that would take us probably 3 months, you could probably do that in 3 days now. with AI. And that's what I would do. And that's what I have done over and over again. If I even if I want to create, and we've been doing this for like 2 years, creating online businesses, products and services for doctors, like professionals, they give us a general idea. Here's what they want to create. So, hey, I want to help people who are suffering with Hashimoto's. We create the entire program, branding, name, everything, but we do it through AI. And we used to do this creatively, and it used to be copywriting and a lot of time, where we can do it now in about a week for the real foundational bones of the program. So I would use AI. I would leverage it as much as possible. And to your point about repetition and Hormozy, the more you use AI, the faster you're going to get at it, the more understanding you're going to have, and the more it understands you, believe it or not. So it's kind of cool. The more you use it, the more it gets to know who you are. Mm-hmm. It's crazy.
Yeah. That's really cool. You know, when it comes to, did you learn, or have you been studying something about sales before you started the business at all, or how? Yeah.
For sales?
Sales. Have you been studying sales?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. You know, for chiropractors, we spend a lot of time, or at least I would say a large percent of it is spend a lot of time once you graduate learning sales. Mm-hmm. So whether you're a dentist, podiatrist, chiropractor, orthodontist, it is, you know, regardless of whether we're health professionals, we are also sales professionals. Mm-hmm. So we spend a lot of time on sales. I feel is just communication, mm-hmm. having people better understand how you can help them and solve their problem, which is sales, right?
Yep.
So yeah, I spent a lot of time and got very good at, when people came into my office, especially for the first time, here's how I can find out whether or not I can actually help them. So diagnose what problem they specifically have.
Ooh, okay.
And then how do I actually present that back to them and go, here's how I can help you. And that's sales. I mean, someone comes into a car dealer and they go, I'm looking for this. Here's the problem I have. You present them with the option and you sell them into the new vehicle. And it's the same with healthcare. I hope that doesn't offend people, but it's a reality. And we've accepted that as a profession. Again, this is the same with dentists. Because if people don't actually commit to starting and then following through with our recommendations, so it's called compliancy to care, then they don't get better. And I mean, we became health professionals because we want to help people. So I guess it's the same, like even with you. The reason why you're so committed to what you're doing is because you know you want to help people. And so the sales piece is a huge piece.
Yeah, it's so funny because, you know, when it comes to me, and English is my second language, going back to that and so on, this is pretty tough. Like, communication is so important, and it's very tough. And for people who are starting and they're from different country, I'm telling you right now, like, the most, in my opinion, and if I would be starting again, I would be focusing most of my time literally learning communication skills. Like, this is the biggest thing. Like, if you know how to talk, you will always know how to raise money, but you have to be genuine. If you know, you just get out of here. Like, I don't care. Like, literally, like, if you don't want to be genuine in what you do, how you serve people, just don't serve them, because, like, I'm not supporting those people who are just, like, you know, thinking about themselves and so on, like, you know, trying to scam people or so. This is ridiculous to me. And using those techniques, because, like, humans are, have you read the book Predictably Irrational or something like that?
No, I haven't.
Okay.
No.
This is really cool, actually. This is human psychology stuff. And, like, yeah, there are lots of things, like, everybody, if nobody read the book, I suggest you to read it, because it's really cool. Like, you will find out a lot about human psychology and how they behave, because, you know, humans are simple. You just have to understand why they do things in certain order and so on. Like, it's really cool. Either way, when we've been talking about the AI I completely forget the thought now. Oh my gosh, what was it? It was prior this conversation about what we had just now. There was AI about. I completely forget. Either way, yeah. So we talked about a bunch of things. Literally, like it was amazing to have you here. 100%. We've been talking about AI. We've been talking about like how you got into into entrepreneurship and so on, like chiropractoring, and this is pretty cool. Like to see, when it comes to doing diagnosis, it's pretty much selling, literally, because you're figuring out what's the issue, and that's exactly what is happening. Even though like on calls with other people, like how you can actually serve them, because you have to find out what is the issue and so on. So this is really powerful. This is like that. I really like that piece too. You completely remind me of of me being liking literally fossils and this type of thing. This is insane because I haven't thought about it like for freaking years. That's awesome, bro. Yeah, it was really pleasure to have you here. It was amazing conversation, and hopefully we can do another anytime or anything, like whenever.
Yeah, anytime.
Yeah, would be amazing to have you again. And oh yeah, so with the AI, we're gonna end this with this conversation, and that is because like, what do you think when it comes to AI? What are the markets that you would focus on the most, and has the biggest potential when it comes to AI implementation, and there is not as many people, like, I mean, competition and so on, like that people would have the easiest, let's say, entrance to a business, because like when it comes to coaches and consultants, holy smokes, people are going to coaches, consultants, and service providers and this type of online business.
Yeah.
Holy smokes, this is the hardest business that you can start with, like totally, because like you have to talk certain way, you have to be authority, you have to be somebody on the internet to actually get even in touch with them. I'm really blessed to be able to talk to those people, because like just of the growth that I've experienced during the year. But that's like literally, I would say that a lot of things that happen was even like not even intentional, and it literally happened because I've been like really doing something that just literally worked for me, and I've been able to have so amazing people on my show, and like literally even continuing having, and yeah. So in your opinion, what would be the best marketplace to start with AI, and it would make the easiest entry point for people?
Like historically, it's been that it's been more like if you want to launch an agency, let's say a business or an agency, and you want to help businesses, whether it's professionals or just service businesses at all, it was always like, how do I help them with their SEO, and how do I help them with advertising? So it's a great frame. It's a great way to start a business. It's all virtual. You can hire out most of your team into the Philippines. So it is a very profitable business. However, there's, again, the trust deficit now when it comes to advertising. Advertising is not performing the way that it used to. People don't trust Google ads. SEO, yes, but people are moving away from searching on Google. So to answer your question, I would say really start researching answer engine optimization. If you could start helping businesses, say, give them a proposal of like, look, I understand you have a dry cleaning business here. How about if I could come into your business, and every time someone asks for, how do I get a stain out of my shirt in your area, it goes, why don't you take it over to so-and-so dry cleaner? They have great experience with this. They're experts at getting out wine stains. That's the kind of future pacing that I would say people should be looking at. Was that going to change in probably a year or two? Probably. It'll be even more automated at some point, I'm sure. But right now, I would say that's the sweet spot. A lot of businesses don't realize how important it is for them to be the preferred, trusted referral from AI. And I know we can't get into it today, but there are specific things that you need to have set up that are signals that put out online that you are trustworthy and your business should be recommended. And then there are certain things that disqualify you. So I think doing an audit and then setting that up for a business, and then also maybe having a subscription model where it's like, we'll maintain your trusted authority status with AI for the month. I'm just kind of riffing here, but it's probably a 7-figure a year business right there.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
Does it has something to do also like with SEO and like how you are listed and so on, like how you presenting your business on online basically, so the AI can actually find you and so on? Like, is this whole thing related to having everything properly set up for AI to research you?
Yes and no. So search engine optimization is often confused with AI engine optimization. So, or I should say answer engine optimization. They're because they almost seem very similar, but they're not. So if I'm trying to work out a good analogy for this, but it would be like if you were aiming at a target, and often what you're doing with SEO and with paid advertising is you're shooting as many arrows as you can, and you're just being visible, and you hit the target, but you're all over the target. Whereas someone who actually has answer engine optimization, they shoot one arrow and it's a bullseye. That's it. It's laser focused. They have one message and it answers two things and I'll just leave it with this. I mean, there's a lot more nuance to it, but these two things you have to be able to answer. Number one is, who are you and what do you do? And I want to stress that it's who, because AI generally won't refer to businesses. It refers to people more strongly than it will refer to businesses when it comes to trust. And then what do you do? So, when I said the dry cleaning, I didn't say they clean shirts. I said they remove wine stains. Specificity, your expertise, like what do you do? What are you great at? We get out difficult stains. Like, it has to be laser focused for that specific business. So chiropractors, we help people who are in pain versus we help people who have headaches and migraines. Very different proposition. And AI will pick up on the second one way faster. It will disqualify you if you just say, we help people with pain. We help people with wellness, with posture. So those are the two things I'm going to leave it with you. So number one, who are you? You need to answer that. And number two is, what do you do? And the more focused you are on answering those two questions consistently, so it's always those two things, then AI will pull you out from basically all of the noise of all the other stuff that's out there. So that's just probably if I was a business owner and if I was listening right now and I wanted to optimize for AEO, I would start with answering those two questions.
Does it mean to include those informations on a page?
Yeah. So like if you're going to write, if people are writing reviews for you, right? Reviews are important for SEO. So I can go to a chiropractor site. I can see that they have 1,000 reviews. AI doesn't care how many reviews you have, the volume. It doesn't even care how many stars you have. What it cares about is when it scans those reviews, what are you known for? So if it goes to a chiropractor's reviews and consistently over those reviews, it says this doctor helps with, shoulder arthritis. And it's always like everyone mentions in every review, I went in for my shoulder. It was, I had, frozen shoulder, another condition, right? That's very common, very painful. Went in for frozen shoulder, completely helped, rehabbed. Awesome. Thank you so much. So it's that consistency of specialization and being recognized for one thing that you're an authority in. AI will recommend you.
Nice.
Right? Because someone will go to AI and they'll go, I think I have frozen shoulder. What are the symptoms? And it'll list them. oh no, it sounds like I have that. How do I get checked out? Well, you could go see a PT, you could go see a chiropractor. And then you would be like, can you recommend a good chiropractor in the area? Bam, it recommends that chiropractor.
Nice. Okay.
So
That's
yeah,
really
it's very specific.
yeah, very cool. All right, thank you so much, brother. That was amazing to have you here.
Yeah, absolutely.
Where people can find you before I let you go.
So Dr. Ed Osburn, so dredosburn.com, easiest place to find me. Osburn, not Osborne, like Ozzy Osbourne. And, or just go, you know what, Google me or go to AI. You'll find me very quickly on either one. I'm optimized on both.
Awesome. All right, thank you so much, brother. And
You
for
got it.
everybody who's listening, yeah. And for everybody who's listening, we will chat in the next episode. For now, bye.